The rain pounded mercilessly against the fractured pavement, blurring the headlights of a weathered Honda as it rolled into the lot of Burger Palace 47. Behind the wheel sat Marcus Delaney, the man who had once built a modest food truck into a multi-million-dollar empire stretching across 3 states. But tonight, the CEO was gone. In his place was a man named Mike Davis, at least according to the worn fake ID in his back pocket. He tilted his cap low, hiding the sharp glint in his eyes, and caught a glimpse of himself in the rear-view mirror. The transformation was nearly complete. Gone was the corporate lion who negotiated with Fortune 5s and shook hands with mayors. Now he wore wrinkled jeans, a second-hand windbreaker, and the weight of suspicion heavy on his shoulders. Burger Palace number 47 had never been a problem on paper. It wasn't failing. It wasn't thriving. It just floated in that unsettling space of mediocrity. Month after month, it produced numbers that were just good enough to avoid scrutiny. But after 2 decades in this cutthroat business, Marcus knew better. Inconsistency was common. Perfection was suspicious. But perfect mediocrity? That was a red flag waving in the wind. He stepped out into the downpour, each drop like a drumbeat echoing his doubt. Something was off. Something he couldn't ignore. As he entered, the door chimed cheerily, a sound that felt almost sinister against the backdrop of his internal storm. The smell hit him instantly. Charred meat, fried potatoes, and something else. Something sterile. The place was immaculate. Too immaculate. The tile floors gleamed under sterile fluorescent lighting, and the chrome countertops reflected every movement like polished glass. It felt more like a showroom than a working restaurant. "Welcome to Burger Palace. What can I get started for you today?" The cashier, a teenage girl with violet-dyed hair and a forced smile that barely concealed exhaustion, looked up from the register. Her name tag read Jess. She had the look of someone who had said those words 1,000 times and meant them none of those times. Marcus didn't flinch. He'd practiced for this. "Just a cheeseburger, medium fries, and a Coke, please." "That'll be $8.47. He handed her a worn $10 bill, eyes scanning the dining room as if every surface might hold a secret. It was a typical weeknight crowd. Families with kids coloring on placemats, a couple of teenagers hunched over milkshakes, a man in a suit scrolling his phone. Normal. Too normal. His instincts flared like alarms in the back of his mind. He watched the staff with the same scrutiny he used to review quarterly reports. Their movements were too tight, too rehearsed. They weren't co-workers. They were performers on a stage. Every step, every turn, every motion had been choreographed. "Order up, cheeseburger for Mike." He collected his tray and took a booth in the corner where the sightline to the kitchen's service window gave him the view he needed. He unwrapped the burger slowly, methodically. Then he lifted the top bun to add ketchup and froze. There, seared subtly into the golden crust of the bread, were 3 words. "Check Thursday night." His breath caught in his throat. For a second, he thought it might be a trick of the light. But no. The message was real. Etched with purpose. Hidden in plain sight. Whoever baked this bun had done it carefully, precisely. This wasn't graffiti. This wasn't a prank. It was a cry for help. His pulse quickened. Who wrote it? Who was it meant for? Him. He resisted the urge to look up. Instead, he casually pulled out his phone and pretended to check his messages, angling the camera downward. Click. 1 photo, 1 breadcrumb in a trail he hadn't realized he was following until now. He took a bite of the burger, chewing on autopilot while his mind sprinted through possibilities. Tonight was Thursday. Whoever sent this message knew he'd be here. Knew he'd be the one to find it. But what was he supposed to check? Everything on the surface seemed fine. The burger was textbook. Juicy patty, crisp lettuce, toasted bun. The fries were golden, the Coke fizzy. But perfect presentation meant nothing when the soul of a business was rotten. He looked at the staff again. Jess, the cashier, looked too young, too fresh to be involved in anything deeper than a homework assignment. The cook, on the other hand, looked twitchy. His eyes flicked back and forth between the grill and something in the kitchen Marcus couldn't see. Then, from the office, emerged a man who didn't need a name tag. Tall, mid-30s, confident, but a little too confident. Shoulders tense beneath a spotless polo. Eyes scanning constantly, calculating. That had to be Tyler Grant. Marcus had never met him, but he knew the resume by heart. 7 years with the company, 2 as general manager, clean records, average customer scores, average compliance, average everything. 2 average. Tyler moved through the dining room like a man auditioning for Employee of the Month. He checked tables, offered smiles, shook hands, and yet, Marcus saw it. In the edges of his grin, in the way he stood just a little too stiff. This was a man with something to hide. Marcus took his time finishing the meal, every bite now a performance. The carved message had shifted his entire perspective. This wasn't a secret shopper visit anymore. This was an investigation. Someone inside this restaurant had risked everything, to get a message to him. And if they were right, if something really was happening here, it wasn't just numbers on a spreadsheet that were in danger. As he gathered his tray to leave, a movement in the kitchen caught his eye. A young woman at the prep station, dark hair tied back, focused on her work. But every few seconds her eyes flicked toward the dining room, as if checking, watching, waiting. Their eyes met for the briefest moment through the service window. And Marcus knew. She was the one who carved the message. She looked away almost immediately, but not before Marcus caught the flicker in her eyes, a flash of something raw and urgent. It wasn't just fear. It was a mix of desperation and fragile hope, the kind that only blooms when someone's back is against a wall and there's nowhere left to run. That moment hung in the air longer than it should have, a silent scream behind glass. Marcus rose slowly, dropped his trash in the bin, and walked toward the exit with deliberate calm. As he passed the counter, Tyler Grant stepped forward, his timing just a little too perfect. "Everything good tonight?" Tyler asked, his voice smooth but his eyes sharp with something hidden. "Great burger," Marcus replied with the same smooth edge. He forced a smile that mirrored Tyler's, polished, practiced, hollow. "See you around." "Have a good evening, sir." Marcus nodded and stepped into the night, the cool air biting against the heat rising in his chest. He climbed into his car but didn't start the engine. Instead, he sat still, staring at the photo glowing on his phone. Check Thursday night. 3 words, just 3. But they had shifted the ground beneath his feet. This was no longer a standard inspection. It was a warning wrapped in dough, passed along in secret by someone who could lose everything if they were discovered. And whoever she was, whoever had etched that message, had chosen him. That trust weighed heavily on him, and he wouldn't take it lightly. Back in his sterile hotel room, Marcus transformed into the version of himself the world rarely saw. The investigator, the strategist, the man who saw cracks before the building crumbled. He spread out across the desk, laptop open, printed reports fanned like a detective's case file, phone propped upright displaying the carved bun like a digital clue screaming for interpretation. He didn't operate on gut feelings alone. Marcus had learned early in his career that intuition was just a compass, useless without a map. And the map lived in the numbers. He dove into the operational data for location 47. Tyler's reports looked flawless, too flawless. Food costs sat at an industry-ideal 28%. Labor stayed pinned at 23%. Customer satisfaction hung steadily at 4.2 stars. No spikes, no dips, just constancy. But in the real world, numbers breathe, they move, they react. Real businesses pulse with the chaos of human behavior. Nothing stays that perfect for that long, not without help. He pulled up 6 months of food orders. Restaurants, especially fast food joints, follow certain rhythms, higher meat orders before weekends, dips during midweek lulls. But Tyler's patterns were static, predictable to the decimal point. The meat orders fluctuated less than 2% week to week. Marcus leaned back, frowning. That's impossible. No kitchen staff on Earth could calibrate demand that perfectly, not without manipulating the numbers. His fingers worked faster now, chasing the scent of something sour beneath the surface. Cross-referencing order logs with actual sales data, he found the first glaring inconsistency. Location 47 ordered 15% less beef than comparable stores, yet reported identical burger sales. There were only two explanations. They were skimping on portions, or they weren't using the company-approved meat at all. His stomach tightened. The supplier logs deepened the mystery. Harrison Foods, Burger Palace's primary vendor, had consistent delivery records every Tuesday and Friday. But there were outliers. Small, undocumented transactions from unfamiliar names, Value Protein Solutions, Budget Meat Direct, unvetted, untraceable, and they only delivered on Thursday nights. His pulse quickened. This wasn't just about cutting corners. This was a covert operation. Marcus pulled up waste disposal records. A restaurant's garbage tells stories. What's being thrown out, what's being overordered, what's being hidden. Location 47's Thursday night trash pickups were abnormally high, nearly 3 times the usual volume, and always scheduled right before health inspections. They're hiding something. He whispered it aloud to the empty room as if hearing it made it real. The pattern was undeniable. Thursday night, unverified meat deliveries. Friday morning, trash hauls triple the size. By Sunday, another flawless inspection result, another clean slate. He moved to the security footage logs. As CEO, his credentials granted him access to every location's cameras. But when he attempted to view Thursday nights at location 47, nothing. The videos were corrupted, deleted, missing, and not just once, every Thursday for the past 3 months. His phone buzzed. A message from his assistant. Tyler Grant's performance reviews are in your inbox. FYI, he pulled an extra $47,000 in bonuses last year. Marcus opened the file. At first, it looked mundane. Tyler's first 5 years were completely average. Nothing stood out. But 2 years ago, right when he was promoted to general manager of Location 47, the shift was immediate. Scores skyrocketed, bonuses stacked. No complaints made it to public channels. And every single benchmark was suddenly not just met, but surpassed. Too much, too fast. Marcus had seen this exact pattern before, in managers who discovered shortcuts. Some used undocumented labor, others doctored books. A few did worse. He grabbed his phone and dialed. "Rebecca Chin," came the groggy voice. "Marcus, it's almost midnight. What's wrong?" "I need a quiet data pull. Location 47. Health inspections, complaints, turnover records. 2 years' worth." "Tyler's store. He's one of our top guys." "That's what I'm worried about." A pause, then, "I'll send it to your private email. You'll have it in an hour." "Thank you. And Rebecca?" "Yeah?" "Don't mention this to anyone." "Not yet." At exactly 53 minutes, the documents hit his inbox. Marcus worked through the night like a man possessed. Inspection records? Spotless. Not one citation in 24 months. Statistically impossible. 90% of stores rack up minor infractions. Dust under shelves, expired condiments, employee hygiene. But Tyler's record gleamed. Too perfect. Then he hit the complaint database. Buried in the system, hidden behind generic tags and swiftly closed tickets, were complaints about foul-smelling meat, odd textures, customers getting sick, each followed by immediate personal apologies from Tyler. Complimentary meals, vouchers. A quiet sweeping under the rug. He barely noticed the sun beginning to rise through the hotel curtains. Employee turnover was the final nail. 15 employees had left in the past year, all night shift, all citing vague reasons. No exit interviews. No pattern. Or rather, a pattern hidden beneath silence. Marcus leaned back in his chair, exhaustion washing over him. But sleep wouldn't come. Not now. Whatever was happening at Burger Palace 47, it was orchestrated, carefully, ruthlessly. And someone inside, likely that girl at the prep station, had taken a leap of faith, hoping a stranger would care enough to listen. He did. And now, Marcus Delaney wasn't just listening. He was ready to act. Marcus leaned in as the final piece snapped into place. The termination dates, the quietly discarded employees, and the late-night deliveries all pointed in one direction. Deliberate erasure. The kind that didn't happen by accident. The kind that smelled of cover-ups and whispered threats. Each name on that list was a ghost, vanishing shortly after the sketchy Thursday night shipments. The message was crystal clear. Speak up and you're out. He could almost feel the air tightening around each employee's throat. He sank back into his chair, exhaling sharply as the full scope of the operation unfurled before him like a crime scene photograph. This wasn't just a case of corner cutting. Tyler Grant had built a well-oiled system of corruption, one that reached into procurement, waste disposal, labor management, and even digital forensics. This was corporate fraud, disguised as efficiency. And the message carved into that bun? It wasn't just a plea. It was a scream hidden in plain sight. A last-ditch act of defiance from someone with everything to lose. The clock read 1:47 a.m. In less than a day, Marcus would return to Burger Palace number 47. But not as the Undercover CEO. Not as a customer blending into the crowd. This time, he was going in as a hunter. The following night, parked across the street, Marcus watched the neon glow of the restaurant fade with the dinner rush. The parking lot thinned. The pace inside slowed. But tension hung in the air like static before a storm. Gone was the disguise of the down-on-his-luck wanderer. Tonight he was Danny Rodriguez, IT contractor for TechServe Solutions, a fictional tech firm with just enough digital presence to appear real. His uniform was clean. His story, tighter than a locked vault. His tablet, loaded with custom software to access internal systems. His badge, fake, but flawless. At 9:15 p.m., Marcus knocked on the employee entrance. Tyler answered, his apron stained from the rush, his forehead glistening. The look in his eyes betrayed a hint of surprise, maybe even concern. "You must be the tech guy," Tyler said, shaking his hand with a grip that tried too hard to seem casual. "Didn't think you were coming until tomorrow." Marcus smiled. "Schedule opened up. Hope that's okay. Figured I'd knock it out tonight. Less foot traffic after close." "Actually, that's perfect." Tyler glanced back into the kitchen. "Just a few of us here now." Perfect indeed. Inside, the layout was sharper in person. The hallways tighter. The prep stations better organized. But Marcus saw through the gloss. He scanned everything, memorizing doors, camera placements, blind spots. Tyler gestured toward a manager's terminal near the office. "You can set up here. I'll be finishing inventory." "Sounds good," Marcus replied. "The less supervision, the better." As Tyler disappeared into the back, Marcus began his real task. The kitchen was down to skeleton crew. The same dark-haired woman from the day before, Maya, methodically chopping produce, and an older man at the grill, scrubbing like his life depended on it. But it was the storage room that drew Marcus's eye. Tucked behind the kitchen, it had visibility of both the loading dock and the main prep floor. A perfect vantage point. "Excuse me," Marcus called out, voice casual. "I need to check the router. Is it in the storage room?" Maya froze, eyes wide. I think so. I don't really know." "No problem. I'll find it." Inside, the air was cooler, the shelves tightly packed. He found a high ledge nestled between flour sacks and tucked the wireless surveillance device into place. A green blink confirmed it was live. He tapped his phone, streaming activated. Back at the terminal, Marcus used his IT access to dive deeper, not into system upgrades, but into hidden backups Rebecca had quietly slipped into his corporate cloud access. Buried in the digital wreckage were deleted security clips Tyler thought were gone forever. The first made Marcus's blood run cold. Tyler and a burly supervisor, thick arms, tattoos, and a permanent scowl, were hauling boxes marked expired. They peeled off the red warning labels and replaced them with fresh stickers, repackaging rotting meat. The next clip was somehow worse. Rows of buns, mottled with black and green mold, were being scraped clean, then spray painted with a golden dye, lined up like fresh-baked goods ready for sale. Each crate stamped, inspection ready. Then the crown jewel of the rot, a full operational rotation. Expired meat, ground and blended with fresh. Rotten vegetables hidden beneath crisp layers. Sour dairy poured into clean containers. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking. This wasn't mismanagement. This was warfare on public health. And Tyler, he wasn't an unwilling accomplice. He was the general. Then came the alert. His phone buzzed. Live footage from the hidden camera. Tyler and the tattooed supervisor were wheeling in boxes from a van marked Budget Meat Direct. Even through the grainy feed, Marcus could see the discoloration, the slime, the awful texture. "How's it going over there?" Tyler called out, pretending to check inventory but glancing toward the terminal. "Almost done," Marcus lied, quickly minimizing the videos. He kept one eye on the live stream. They worked fast. Boxes dumped into industrial grinders. The sludge mixed with preservatives, artificial coloring, and water to thin the paste. Patties were formed with mechanical ease, but it was Maya's face that shattered him. She stood still. Her hands stopped working, her mouth pressed tight. Tears traced clean lines down her face as she watched the rot get processed into fresh food. Her body shook with silent fury and crushing helplessness. She'd tried to stop this. She'd cried out in the only way she could. And still, she was forced to watch it happen again. Marcus clenched his jaw, recording everything. He had evidence. He had motive. He had the truth. But now he had something more, a responsibility. Maya had risked everything. He wouldn't let that go unanswered. The mission had changed. This wasn't just about exposing corruption. It was about saving her. The next morning, Marcus made his move. He couldn't approach her inside the restaurant. Too risky. Tyler might suspect, so he waited. Across the street, inside a sleepy cafe called Morning Brew, hidden behind a laptop and a half-empty cup of coffee. At 6:47 a.m., she appeared. Maya stepped out of the employee door, shoulders hunched, hoodie drawn tight over her frame. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in days, because fear never let her. Marcus gave her space, letting her lead. She turned onto the sidewalk, walked half a block, and stepped into the cafe. He followed. She was tucked in a corner, staring through the foggy window, hands wrapped around a large cup like it was the only warmth she had left. She didn't see him yet, but he saw her, and he knew. Now was the time. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she lifted her coffee to her lips. Whether it was the caffeine or raw nerves, Marcus couldn't tell, but he could feel the weight of her dread from across the room. "Excuse me," he said gently, stepping forward with a calm demeanor. "Mind if I sit? Everywhere else is taken." She looked up, and the instant her eyes met his, he saw it. Recognition, panic. She started to rise, ready to flee. "Please don't go," Marcus said softly but firmly. "I'm not who you think I am." Her body froze mid-motion, her breath shallow. "I don't know what you're talking about," she whispered, but she didn't run. Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. On the screen glowed the photo of the burger bun. "Check Thursday night." That was you, wasn't it? The dam broke. Maya crumpled back into her chair. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked down, unable to hold his gaze. I can't. My name isn't Danny Rodriguez," he said quietly. "It's Marcus Delaney. I own Burger Palace." Her breath caught audibly. The color drained from her face. "Oh, God. Oh, no. You're going to fire me. You're going to tell Tyler that I—" "No," he cut her off, leaning forward, his voice equal parts urgency and compassion. "Maya, you are not in trouble. I'm here because someone had to be brave enough to tell the truth, and you were the only one who tried." She looked up at him again, searching his eyes, testing him. "You're really the owner?" He pulled out his ID, his real business card. She took it with trembling hands. "I've been investigating location 47 for weeks," he continued. "Your message led me to the truth. The expired meat, the cover-ups, the faked inspections. You did the right thing." Maya's shoulders shook as she wiped at her tears with the back of her sleeve. "I didn't know what else to do. I tried calling the corporate hotline once, but somehow Tyler found out." Marcus felt his jaw clench. "He called me into his office and told me if I ever filed another false complaint, he'd ruin me. Said he had friends, said he could make sure no one in food service would ever hire me again." "How long has this been happening?" Marcus asked, voice low. "About 8 months, ever since I started nights." Her voice broke with shame, as if she carried the guilt of every sick customer. "At first, I thought maybe I misunderstood, that maybe food past the date could still be used. But then I saw the mold. I saw them mixing old beef with fresh to mask the color. That's when I knew people were going to get hurt." Marcus's rage simmered beneath the surface, but he kept it there, for her sake. "Did anyone else try to speak out?" She nodded. "Carlos. He worked prep with me. Took photos of the mold. Said he was going to post them online. Tyler fired him the next day. Said he was stealing from the register. Carlos couldn't prove otherwise. And the inspectors, they never noticed?" Maya let out a bitter laugh. "Tyler gets a warning every time. They clean everything, bring in food from other stores, hide the bad stuff in a storage unit off-site. Once the inspector leaves, everything goes back to normal." "And the tattooed guy, Rick, he's the enforcer," she whispered. "He's the one who makes things disappear. Trash, evidence people. He told me what would happen if I ever spoke to someone." Marcus reached across the table, placing a steady hand over hers. "Maya, you're safe now, but I need your help." She looked up, fear still gripping her eyes. "What do you want me to do?" "Just keep showing up. Keep your normal routine. Don't raise any alarms. Can you do that?" She nodded slowly. "What about Tyler? What about Rick? They'll know something's wrong." "Let me handle them," Marcus said. "Your only job is to stay safe." Her lips trembled. "You promise I won't lose my job? This is all I have. I'm saving for culinary school. If I get blacklisted—" "You won't be. In fact," he said with a gentle smile, "we'll talk about helping you get there. We need people like you, people with integrity." For the first time she smiled. Small, fragile, but real. "I can't believe someone actually saw the message. I thought it would just get thrown away." "Sometimes the smallest acts of courage make the biggest difference," Marcus said. "You trusted someone would care, and you were right." As they stood to part ways, she gripped his arm. "Mr. Delaney, thank you. I was starting to think I was crazy." "You're the sanest person in that entire place," he said. "Hold on to that." The trap was set. Now came the fall. 3 days later, Marcus sat in his executive office, staring at the empty chair across from him, the chair where Tyler Grant would soon sit for the last time. But first, Marcus had to ensure the fall was complete. He dialed. "Rebecca, it's time." "You want the audit tonight?" she asked, surprised. "That's short notice." "Exactly. We request an emergency inspection, food safety violations. Tell the county health department it's based on anonymous tips." "You want me to give Tyler a heads up?" "Absolutely not. Make it a surprise. Hit them at 9:30 p.m. during the night shift. I want you there. Bring the compliance officer, bring the camera crew." By that evening, the pieces were in place. At 8:45 p.m., Marcus watched from across the street. Tyler's car was in its usual spot. The budget meat direct truck had arrived, right on cue. The scene was playing out like a script. Rebecca texted, "Health inspector en route. Compliance officer here, camera crew in place." Marcus's heart pounded. Years of hard work, a legacy built on quality, all riding on this moment. At 9:25, the inspector's van pulled into the lot. Marcus waited until the crew entered the restaurant. Then he moved. He stepped through the front door just as the first sparks of panic began to spread. Tyler stood by the counter, pale and shaking as Inspector Patricia Williams showed her badge. "This is highly irregular," Tyler stammered. "We weren't scheduled." "Anonymous complaints demand immediate inspection," Williams interrupted. "We'll need access to all storage areas, prep zones, delivery records." Tyler's eyes darted, desperate. "Let me just get the paperwork." "Tyler," Marcus's voice cut through the room like a whip. Tyler turned and froze. "Mr. Delaney," he choked. "What? What are you doing here?" "Cleaning house," Marcus said. He turned to the inspector. "Check the dry storage and the walk-in. Start with anything that arrived in the last 4 hours." Tyler turned to bolt. "Rick," he shouted. "Rick, get out here." But it was too late. Rick was already cuffed, escorted by officers through the back entrance, holding foul-smelling boxes of meat and mold-covered buns. Marcus stepped closer, lifting his phone. The screen showed live footage from the hidden camera. "We've been watching you all week." Tyler's face collapsed. "The fake deliveries, the expired meat, the relabeling, the threats, it's all on video." "You don't understand," Tyler stammered. "The pressure, the bonuses, everyone cuts corners. This is how it works." "No," Marcus said, voice steel. "That's how criminals operate. Not us, not in my company." Inspector Williams stepped out of the kitchen, her face grim. "I've never seen this level of deception. This is going to the DA's office." Rebecca lifted her tablet. "We've got it all. Every last detail." Tyler made one final pathetic attempt. "It was Rick. The crew knew. Maya—" "Enough," Marcus snapped. "The night crew were your victims. You built a prison of fear. But Maya risked everything to stop you. She carved a message into a bun, praying someone would see it." He stepped forward, close enough for Tyler to feel the heat of his anger. "And someone did." Tyler's face drained of color, his eyes darting toward Maya like a man desperately grasping for someone to blame. "Maya, she's the one who— She's the hero of this story." Marcus cut him off sharply, his voice unwavering. "And the only person from your night shift who's keeping her job." As officers escorted Tyler away in handcuffs, he twisted to look back one last time. "My bonuses, my performance record. I was the best manager you had." "No," Marcus replied coldly. "You were the best fraud I had. There's a difference." The health inspector moved swiftly, sealing off contaminated areas with red warning tape. Rebecca stood nearby, already on the phone with corporate legal, laying the groundwork for the inevitable lawsuits. It was a scene of destruction, not just of a business unit, but of a web of deception woven carefully over months. Marcus watched it all unfold with a complicated blend of satisfaction and grief. Justice was being served, but at the cost of so much trust. In the kitchen, Maya stood silently at her prep station, tears running freely down her face as she watched the world she'd feared finally collapse. Marcus approached quietly. "It's over," he said. She could only nod, emotion too raw to form words. "Tomorrow," he added gently, "we start rebuilding the right way." Maya's lips trembled into a smile. "Yes, sir, I'd like that very much." And just like that, the nightmare ended. But the real work was just beginning. 2 weeks later, Burger Palace number 47 was unrecognizable. The kitchen gleamed with stainless steel. Refrigerators buzzed with cold certainty. Every corner smelled of fresh beginnings. And Maya. She was confidently flipping burgers with a calm assurance that came from knowing she belonged. The transformation hadn't been easy. The day Tyler was arrested, Rick and 3 other night shift accomplices were also terminated and blacklisted from the company. The health department shut down the location for a full-scale decontamination. Marcus had spared no expense. Hazmat-level cleaning crews, complete replacement of food supplies, new security systems with tamper-proof backups. Every inch of the restaurant had been scrubbed of corruption, physically and morally. But scrubbing stainless steel was easy. Rebuilding trust, that was the real battle. Marcus personally met with every remaining employee. Some, like Jess, the purple-haired cashier, had been completely in the dark. Others had quietly suspected but were too afraid to ask questions. And a few had turned a blind eye too many times. Those were gently let go. The hardest meeting of all was with Carlos. Marcus found him flipping dough at a rundown pizza shop across town. His hands moved with practiced speed, but his eyes held the dullness of someone burned by betrayal. "I should have listened to you," Marcus told him as they shared coffee in a corner booth. "Tyler accused you of theft. I didn't investigate. That's on me." Carlos had blinked, skeptical. "Why now?" "Because I believe in second chances," Marcus replied, "and in giving people the courage to do the right thing." He offered Carlos his old job back, plus a promotion to assistant kitchen manager and back pay for the lost weeks. Carlos had stared, speechless. Then slowly, his eyes filled with tears. "You really believe me now?" "I believe in people who fight for what's right," Marcus said. "We need more of them." Back in the newly energized kitchen, Marcus watched as Carlos trained new staff on proper safety protocols. Everyone moved with purpose, not fear. They asked questions. They checked dates. They worked not to survive the shift, but to take pride in the meal. And Maya, she had blossomed. True to his promise, Marcus had enrolled her in culinary school, fully sponsored by Burger Palace. She attended classes during the day and returned each evening, not just as a prep cook, but as a mentor. She brought back new techniques, refined flavor profiles, and a sense of artistry the kitchen had never known. "Mr. Delaney," Maya called from the grill. "Health inspector's here." Marcus turned to see Inspector Williams walk in, clipboard in hand, sharp eyes scanning every station. Temperatures, perfect. Storage, flawless. Logs, digitized and transparent. Every corner of the restaurant reflected one thing: integrity. "This is how a kitchen should run," she said, signing off with a satisfied nod. "Not a single violation. You've set a new benchmark for this entire district." After she left, Marcus gathered the staff in the dining room. He'd done this same meeting at all 127 locations in the past 2 weeks. But this one mattered most. 2 weeks ago, he began, this location was unknowingly serving contaminated food to families. He paused, meeting every gaze in the room. That happened because one person chased performance over people, because others were too afraid to speak up. But it ended because someone carved 3 words into a bun. He turned to Maya. She didn't have a title. She didn't have power. She just had the courage to speak. Maya flushed with emotion as the room broke into quiet applause. "From now on," Marcus continued, "every Burger Palace will hang her message in the break room, not as a warning, but as a commitment." He held up a small plaque that read, "Check Thursday night." We check every night now. We speak up. We protect our customers, and we protect each other. Carlos raised his hand. "What if a manager tells us to stay quiet?" "Then you call me," Marcus said, holding out new business cards, each printed with his personal cell number. "Any manager who silences safety concerns will be terminated, no exceptions." As the meeting ended and employees returned to their stations with renewed pride, Marcus stepped outside. The sun was setting. The lot was full. Customers were returning because they believed in second chances too. Maya joined him on the sidewalk. "Mr. Delaney, I just wanted to say thank you for everything, for keeping your promise, for believing in me." "You saved this place, Maya," he said, smiling. "You saved the people who eat here." She hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "What made you come that night?" Why investigate, Tyler? Marcus looked back at the bustling kitchen. Because the numbers looked perfect. Too perfect. But my gut told me something was wrong. He turned back to her, voice calm and assured. In this business, perfection is usually the biggest red flag. And with that, he stepped inside, grabbed a tray, and bit into a fresh cheeseburger. The bun was golden and smooth. No hidden messages. Just honest food, served with dignity. And in that bite, he tasted everything they had fought for, and everything they had become. He had built an empire on trust. He lost it through neglect. But now, through courage, he had earned it back. And this time, he wouldn't let it go.